Okay, everyone, so we are awaiting President Trump. He is going to be speaking any minute from now. And as we wait for him to come out, I am joined right now by former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer and Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein. So, Ari, starting with you, if you were press secretary right now and that all happened, how would you be feeling right now? What would your advice be to the President of the United States who has to answer, well, some critics who are saying this was treasonous, what he did?
Well, it wasn't treasonous, but it was very, very bad judgment. Look, what the president did is very hard to fix because people saw him live. They saw him with their own eyes. It was spontaneous. It was real, unplanned. It's who he is. So now if he does anything today, it's going to be seen as contrived, as damage control. Having said that, he does need to do damage control. If I'm Donald Trump, he's going to double down. That's what he'll do. But I wish he had done, yeah, he'll look at his tweets this morning. He's going to reiterate why he was right. What I wish he would do is say something along the lines of, there are things we can do with Russia. As for election meddling, yes, it happened. I've accepted that it happened. He denies it. He denies it strongly, but we concluded it happened. I believe it happened. I wish he would just say that and then start to crawl his way back on this issue because it did happen, and we should acknowledge it. He should acknowledge it.
And look, you know what? It's happened before. And hopefully it doesn't happen again. But the reality is there's, to a certain extent, I mean, we do this too. And I'm not excusing any of it, but that is part of what happens in the global world in which we are. I mean,
I disagree
Angela Merkel, she was all, remember how mad she was because she said, oh my goodness, the U.S. is spying on me on my cell phone. Yet, you know, the Germans, they've done similar things.
Trish, I disagree with that. We have Voice of America and we have other things that promote the truth. Actual objective truth to nations that aren't able to hear the truth because they have governments that sit on the media and there's no free media. That's different from meddling and buying ads to try to influence an election or stealing emails and distributing them. That's even worse. And an attack on one political party, in my book, is an attack on all political parties.
Well, I just think that he's naive, the president is, to not recognize that this happened.
That's
especially when his own team is telling him that it did happen. And this, to me, Richard Goodstein, it's an easy one. You just say, you know what, it happened, we're moving on, it's not going to happen again under my watch.
I would say it's actually more than that, Trish. You know, Dick Cheney, the vice president, when Ari was at the podium, said what the Russians did was an act of war against the United States. And the response to an act of war is to say, bygones, it happened, but we'll move on. No. What Donald Trump should have done from the day he took office, when the intelligence community said what had happened, was to actually put something in place to keep it from happening again, not even to wag his finger at Putin yesterday, but to actually take action, to convene cabinet meetings, to get all his national security people together and saying, tell me exactly in 60 days what precisely are we going to do to keep this from happening again? What can I do internally? What should I be doing externally to put pressure on the Russians? But simply to say, oh, yeah, OK, I finally concede it happened, that's weak. Sorry, that's just not good.
So what would you advise him to do right now? I mean, how does he salvage the situation?
To literally have a laundry list of things, all of which are not just made up, but real stuff that he could do to enlist Homeland Security, to enlist the states, secretaries of state for every state that manage the election processes to make sure that nothing's being tampered with, to get the Secretary of State involved. I mean, we've got authorities and systems and processes and people, all of whom have the capacity, if they're empowered and if they're funded, to actually do something to push back. But there's been zero evidence that that's happened.
Do you think that there's a chance he could do that, Ari? I mean, could he surprise us? I mean, there's one thing about this president. He is not predictable at all.
I don't think the president is going to convene those meetings, and I think the Department of Homeland Security and others already have with the state election commissioners and others to try to fortify systems. But look, here's what
he could say, hey, this is what we're doing.
Well, he could say, here's what I've done. Why do you think I threw the Russians out of the country? Why do you think I imposed sanctions, closed consulates? He could talk about that as credible evidence of why he does accept the fact there was meddling, despite the fact him not acknowledging it yesterday.
Why do you think he didn't acknowledge it yesterday?
I just think it was a terrible mistake. I think he was so enjoying pushing back upon the themes that are used against him. He looks at those news conferences as a way for him to be unique, to create his own turf. Sometimes it works. Often it does. Yesterday, it backfired terribly and sent every wrong signal about Donald Trump.
Should he have known the answer to that question? I mean, you were telling me you would prepare
Trish.
the president for these press conferences and say, you might get this one. This was kind of the obvious one, right?
Perfectly obvious. And it's not hard to defend America. And yesterday, all he needed to do was say, there are areas we can cooperate, Syria, Iran. We can cooperate with non-proliferation. But Vladimir, knock it off. No one messes with America's elections. Think about if he had said that at yesterday's news conference. What a different day he'd be having today.
Sure.
Can I add one twist? The problem with his inability to say that is it invites bad things. It invites foreign governments who have intelligence they'd like to share with us to maybe think twice, because they don't really know with 100% certainty that the Russians don't have something on Donald Trump, and that if they do, that he might share with them intelligence that some foreign ally of ours wants to share with us, but they're not quite sure it's going to stay where it should stay. And secondly, what does it do to a foreign government who's dependent on the U.S. for its security? The Baltic states, for example. Do they come away from that press conference and saying, yeah, we have perfect confidence that Donald Trump's going to step up for us? Or is he going to say, well they speak Russian?
Okay. All right, let me play devil's advocate here, because I was trying to understand. You wonder, why didn't he say something more? And so if you were going to give him a huge benefit of the doubt and say this is one giant game of chess, hey, maybe it'll actually encourage our NATO allies to actually spend their 2% of GDP, because they may be looking at it and say, gee, he's kind of hunky-dory with Putin. They seem to get along just fine. Maybe we actually ought to start taking care of ourselves. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't think that's what Donald Trump was thinking.
Wishful thinking,
I give
right?
Donald Trump credit for what he did in the Putin section of the NATO section of the meeting, but I don't give him credit for moving chess pieces like that. And Richard's got a very good point. The bigger risk here is Putin says to himself now, I got away with it. And the guy whose house I robbed doesn't even realize I stole his goods. So now I can put electoral pressure on East Europe, on those young, fragile democracies, on the Baltic states, and not get pushback from America. That's the national security risk.
But see, that comes with its own set of risks, because should that happen, I mean, let's not forget, again, who he's dealing with. And it's not just the president, it is the United States of America. And if we say, okay, we don't want you doing that or going there, I think Donald Trump's wrath would be pretty bad.
Except if Donald Trump doesn't accept it happened to America, why is he going to even care if it happens to Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia?
And if you're one of those countries, Trish, that Ari just ticked off, who do you actually see as talking for the United States of America? Is it the president, who called this a summit, or is it everybody else in the apparatus who said, no, this was not a summit? Is it the president who said we have we have denuclearization of the North Korean peninsula, or everybody else in the apparatus who says nothing has changed since he met with Kim? So if you're one of those Baltic states, among other countries, who exactly do you look to speak for the country, and whose word do you rely on? I just think that's a tough one.
Forgive me, Richard, what do you think? I mean, why would he not have said, yeah, knock it off? I mean,
the only explanation I have, putting aside this notion of Putin having something on him, is this whole notion that he refuses to accept it because it questions the legitimacy of his election.
Okay. Well,
and
then that's an ego problem.
It's a horrible one, because the country has now paid a price for his ego, and I think that's a sad state of affairs.
All right, well, maybe he'll clear it up, right?
Let's hope.
All right, Richard, thank you so much.